audio hijack does tell me that it is recording.
Awesome.
0:15.
And that is perfect at 0:15 and 1:30. So perfect. The fan turned off. That's what I was excited.
Man, fans drive me crazy, dude.
Yeah, like, can you hear how, like, there's no fan now?
Nope. Well, because I don't hear it.
Yeah. So we don't have to take it out.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but it's time. Damashe and Michael, just talking tech.
All right, so did you get a chance to look at the Google Doc document yet? Finally?
I did look at it. Yeah, I did look at it. Man, it took so I got to figure out how to phrase this as feedback, and I'm going to send it as just general feedback through the Drive app and the Docs app, because I went to Docs first and I had it filtered by last modified or most recently modified. And for the longest time, the DM36 doc was at the very top of the list. So I was like, well, maybe it hasn't shown up because I never opened it in Docs, so it's just hanging out in the Drive folder. So I went to Drive, went to our team Drive folder, went to DMS37, and there was nothing but the images folder sitting there for a long time.
There should have been an audio, images, and talking Points.gdoc folder or file.
There was just the images folder. Finally, I was like, well, maybe Mike created it and then he just created it in the regular Drive instead of the team Drive.
Right,
you know,
because
that's
I've
the
done
thing
that
so many times happen, right? You know, so that's when I sent you the message. And right after I sent you the message, I went back to Drive to make sure that I hadn't screwed up the date, like the number, the episode number. I was like, maybe it's actually DM36. I don't know. When I get back to Drive at that point, I back out of the folder. DM36 now has the title of the show on the folder because that wasn't there before. And then DM37, I go in and there's the doc. And I was like, oh.
So I did just title DM36 this morning because I just published it yesterday, again late. But I realized this morning when I was going in to edit the Google Doc for DM37, which, by the way, show notes and more information at yourownpay.com/DM37. Did it again. Anyways, when I went in there and I realized that DM36 still didn't have a title, I went ahead and added that title. So maybe that change pushed an update to your Google Drive. I don't know. Something's not synchronizing right, and it's frustrating me. Just so you know, I have a backup of Google Drive, well, of the Your Own Pay folder in Dropbox now because, yeah, I'm a little nervous.
I think the actual storage is fine. I just think it's his clients updating. That's not the first time I've noticed Google Drive on iOS like taking a super long time for something to show up. I just thought it was an aberration at that point because, you know, sometimes stuff happens.
Now, before we make any drastic moves, we'll definitely be playing a lot more with Google Drive and Google Docs on Android because I think our experiences will be a bit different on that.
Yeah, I haven't, well, of course, the Drive app is already installed. I haven't opened it yet. I'm actually trying to figure out which accounts I want to sign in with on this device because I have, let's see, if I count them up, I think I have 4 or 5 Google, I think I have 4 Gsuite accounts at this point.
Not like counting your regular
Not
Google
counting just
account.
My regular gmail.com account. Like I think I actually have 4 Gsuite accounts because there's BS. There's the family account. There's my business account. Yeah, then there's NFB. So yeah, I got 4 Gsuite accounts.
Don't worry, I won't invite you to Your Own Pay because then that would mean I'd have to pay for you.
Yeah, and that's the only reason like I don't have a lot of people in a lot of places. Like the only reason I'm paying for the family account for Gsuite is because Fastmail was sort of kind of giving me some fits with their administration of people's accounts. It wasn't as easy for me to go in and like reset a password or whatever like that. And that seems to be a thing I have to do quite a bit. So I went back to Gsuite for the family services as well. But yeah, that's the reason. Like that's why it took so long for us to get Gsuite set up on blind employment because like I didn't want to pay for you guys. I love you guys, but I didn't want to pay for you, especially on my business account because I have the actual Gsuite business. So that's
so it's like $10 a user going up to $12 a user or whatever in April.
Yeah, that makes me nuts too.
Yeah, everyone's doing their price increase. Like everyone. Did you see the Samsung phone that was announced yesterday at $1,980?
Premium, man, it's a premium product, man. Hey, you know, I could go buy a 2017 base model 5K iMac for probably less than that if I found it in a refurb store. Just as a note. Do you want a fold-up phone or do you want a spectacular screen on a iMac?
I saw some mentions on the mailing list that, the form factor might be pretty cool, but can the software handle it? And that's the big question, which we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the point
I'm not going to be a first developer. That's myself, or a first adopter.
No, not unless they send me one. Like, if somebody over in the Samsung department remembers I beta tested for them some years ago a few times, and they're like, hey, we're going to find you, guy, and send you one of these phones. Like, I'll take one then in those circumstances, but I'm really not interested. Like, I would love to actually have a phone that flipped. I remember a few years ago, it's probably like 5 or 6 years ago, probably longer than that, because it was before the big phones came out from Apple. There was a rumor that Apple was going to make a flip phone. Because Samsung had went and made like a flip smartphone, right? So people naturally were like, "Oh, Apple's going to do one too." It's like, I probably would actually buy that.
I miss the flip form factor myself because it just felt less bulky. But apparently things are going bigger now, so I don't know where it's going. I don't know where. Cases are interesting for flip phones, actually. Finding one that can be both efficient to cover your phone and still allow you the functionality of being able to flip is definitely something that I remember exploring years ago.
Yeah. Flip phones back. I would just spend a lot of money on a leather case that covered the back of it, covered up both sides and just opened up like that. That was usually my default. But then I didn't have any extremely fancy flip phones. For lack of a better term, like they were just your basic, you flip it up, there's a screen in your earpiece, and then right below.
Good old LG 4650 for me.
There you go, man. I had that one too. Good
phone. Pixel XL3, those of you who don't know, Damashe and I both have acquired one over the past week, and we're going to be experimenting with Android. At least I'm going to be playing with Android a lot. Pretty sure Damashe is. I've been playing with Chrome OS, and that's been fun too. Damashe, do you have a case for your phone yet?
I have not gotten a case. I probably will pick up. I'm really not a case person, to be honest, though.
Do you drop phones, though, or?
Not a lot. I'm saying that
You're better than me.
I haven't dropped my iPhone 8 about 3 weeks ago. And funnily enough, like I was actually walking back home or back down to the house down here and had it in my hand and was trying to either put it in my pocket. I was trying to do something with it. And it just flew out my hand. So it's in the grass on the side of the road. I'm just, tapping around, moving my feet really slowly, trying to find my phone.
So you don't squish it.
Right. Because I don't want to step on it to make whatever just happened to it worse.
Right.
But I don't tend to drop phones. I've only actually broken a couple of phones.
I've thrown phones and broken them.
Yeah, I had that happen to an
Remember
iPhone 4. Yeah, I had that happen to an iPhone 4 too. Like I threw it. So, it breaking was actually reasonable. Surprisingly, I threw that phone quite a bit and it only broke like the 7th or 8th time I actually threw it. So,
oh, fun times. Yeah, I typically like to have a case or at least a screen protector. How do you feel about screen protectors?
Screen protectors I'm more fond of. Just because it keeps the fingerprints off the screen, and at least if you drop the phone. Now, it's a little different now because all of the phones have glass, or most of them now have glass backs. So that sort of changes up that whole case argument too. Usually it's because the back of the iPhones were aluminum, so you really didn't have to worry about those. But having a screen protector on oftentimes would save your screen. It has saved my screen before from actually cracking the screen. It would crack the screen protector, but it wouldn't crack the screen. And what I tend to use are those, I don't really have a brand necessarily, but I go for these sort of like tempered glass ones. So they're actual piece of glass, not the little just sticky paper that covers it up. I go for the actual glass screen protectors because if something's going to crack, let the stress hit that first before it gets to the screen.
Yep. Let it hit that break and then you can feel that break. Like, I can tell when it's time to change screen protectors. We used to buy ZAGG, I think they are, or ZAGG screen protectors, and then we realized that we were upgrading phones too many times, and it was costing us a lot of money in those screen protectors. But I'll tell you what, I think we only had to replace one of them, so that was, and it was free. It was a free replacement.
And at this point, you can oftentimes find like 2 or 3 packs of those on Amazon.
Mallory found a 3-pack. They're off-brand, but they're the tempered screen protectors for $15 for the Pixel XL. I'll mail you one if you want.
Yeah, man, do that. That'll be awesome.
All right, I'll get your address.
3-pack. But here's the thing about that. I mean, like I said, one you could use to get a 3-pack or something like that on Amazon. And because the technology has been around so long, like the off-brand models are now reasonably as good as what you would buy from a high-end manufacturer, 3 or 4 years ago because the manufacturing process has trickled down. I mean, it's just like anything else. It's like, look at the iPhone 10s, right? You know, the first iPhone 10 was super expensive and had Face ID. The following year, they were able to put Face ID in a slightly cheaper phone, which is the 10R, just because the manufacturing process for that has trickled down. Eventually, I'm pretty sure everything in Apple's lineup, down to what I hope to see at some point, a remodeled SE is going to have Face ID.
Yeah, that would be nice. Like, Face ID now is the default. Just like for a while, Touch ID was, well, fingerprint ID. I call it Touch ID. I think that's an Apple branded term.
Maybe, yeah, I think that's an Apple branded term. But, you know, I sort of accept because Apple, because again, and to be fair, before anybody, you know, goes into the comments at DM37, you're on pay.com/DM37. I know, Mike knows that there were fingerprint readers out well before Apple ever did it. The major difference is when Apple did it, they did not fail nearly as much and didn't give you as many false positives or false negatives as other fingerprint readers in the industry before that, which is why Touch ID all of a sudden became such a thing. Now, Apple spent a lot of money to buy a company that was their technology and use that for their Touch ID sensor in the iPhone 5S. But they did do it right. Like, they did it better than anybody else had ever done it that tried Touch ID or tried fingerprint authentication.
And then they just sped it up. Like, when they did it right, they didn't really break it. They just made it work faster. And from what I've heard, I've only tried Face ID on the iPhone 10. However, I've heard that on the 10R, 10S, and 10S Max that it's even faster than what it is on the 10. So they tend to go in that direction with the trends that they start.
Yeah, because Touch ID in I think it was the S Model 6s, so the 6S and the 6S Plus, I think got what they call Gen 2 Touch ID, and it was hella faster because I had a 6 Plus and I had a 5S with the first gen Touch ID. And it was fine, right? Because it worked. But yeah, getting the 6S Plus, like, it was noticeably faster when you put your fingerprint on. Like, it was so fast to the point that Apple actually had to put a setting in that says, don't unlock my phone when I push the home button. Because you would literally push the home button like you were used to wake it up, and you would be on your home screen, right? You would just completely not see your lock screen.
Too fast for our simple brains.
You know, whereas with the 5S and the 6 models, like, you could push the home button and take your finger off and it would wake up the screen and you would be on your lock screen and you have to rest your finger there in order to unlock it. You know, when they went to Gen 2 Touch ID, it was like push the button and all you're in. It's like,
and now you got the Pixel XL3 where you tap the touch sensor to wake the display up, which unlocks it, and then your notifications are just right there, which is pretty awesome. I don't know if you noticed but that touch sensor you can also use to manipulate the settings of navigation for TalkBack. I almost called it VoiceOver.
I had not noticed that.
Yeah, if you go into the TalkBack settings, you can use it. So if you flick down on use your finger in a come hither motion is the best way to describe it. So you flick down on that touch sensor on the back of the phone, then it'll cycle between characters, words, lines, just like flicking up and down does on the main screen. So that's something to play around with, and kind of something that intrigues me because that's open to the TalkBack developers, which potentially could be open to third-party developers as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the Pixel 3 is nice. Like, it's a nice phone. It's big, though. Like, it's a little bigger than I'm used to holding because I've been using the iPhone 8 for about a year.
I've been using the iPhone 10 for a year, so to me it was roughly the same size. Yeah, so I'm just like, I've been on a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I've been on the 8. Like, I got off the Plus train and went to an 8 because I had been saying I wanted to try that.
Yeah.
I just could not get an iPhone 10 when it came out. It wasn't happening.
Are you using the headphones at all with the Pixel? Because those are some funky shaped headphones.
I do not like these freaking headphones, man. Oh my God. They are the worst shaped headphones ever. Like, it's like somebody went and said, let's see how we can design a headphone that is not going to stay in Damashe's ear. And they made them. Like,
now, let me ask you, have you plugged them into the phone yet, though?
Yeah, I've actually tried to use.
And you went through the setup guide? Like, that's the first pair of headphones I've ever had that had a setup guide.
Oh no, I didn't get that.
Maybe check your notifications. It might be there when you plug it in. There is a setup guide. It's for setting up your Pixel headphones. It walks you through the process of actually how you're supposed to properly put the headphones in your ear, which was definitely useful for me. And then it'll also give you an opportunity to configure your Google Assistant so it will answer to you hands-free, and then you have to allow permissions so you can use the headphones when your display is locked, and then you can use the Google voice recognition while the display is locked to be able to have it quickly take actions on your behalf. And honestly, once I went through that guide and I actually figured out how to put them in, they sit in my ears fairly comfortable, because at first I was like, because you're supposed to gently push the wire, the top wire, loop wire, into the top part of your ear and then fit the earpiece in your actual ear.
See, maybe it didn't work for me because I did it backwards. I tried to put the earpiece in my ear first then fit the wire. So
So try that. And then once it actually sits in there, they've got a pretty decent sound. I'd like a little bit more lower end. I'm going to do some reviewing because I'm really intrigued by the Pixel Buds. I might wait until after May when Google has their Google I.O. just to see if they announce a second version of the Google Pixel Buds, but I'm kind of intrigued by them now.
So one thing that has sort of, I guess, been of interest to me with getting the Pixel set up, and I don't have a ton of stuff installed yet. I did install Audible.
The only app I installed was Pandora, so.
I installed Apple Music too.
Oh shit, I forgot about that. Have you played with it? Have you got it set up yet or not yet?
Yeah, okay. I have it set up. I signed in and everything. It's surprisingly similar to what you get on iOS. It has your typical tab, your tabs that you see on iOS across the bottom. So library, For You, whatever the rest of them are.
Right. Browse.
It works, yeah. What I do need to do, and I just haven't spent the time to do it as of yet, I'll tell you why in a second, is actually go in and see, can I make that my default music player, which I'm pretty sure I can. I just hadn't looked into how to actually do it. So that way when I say, okay, Google, or hey, Google, sorry if I triggered your devices, but
play your own pay podcast.
Play whatever. It'll play it in, I'm sorry, I can't
sorry,
do
we're
that
not
right
sorry now.
It'll actually play it from Apple Music instead of trying to launch me into Google Play Music or whatever it's called today. Interestingly enough, I shouldn't have been able to trigger your devices. If you have a Pixel, at least I can say this for the Pixel, they take you through a voice recognition process so that Google will only respond to your voice. I don't know how well it works because there's nobody else in my household with a voice anywhere near as deep as mine that could even try to trigger it. But I'm curious if anybody has any feedback that does have one of these in a family environment where voices are somewhat similar, how that actually works. Because in theory, it's a good idea, but, those things don't always work.
I can give you my personal experiences with the Google Hub and Voice Match, not with other people's voices.
Hub, man? The Hub is, and I hadn't hooked it up yet because we're about to move down to the new house.
And I got to get down there and hook it up. Just go down there and hook it up so that way it's done and it's ready to go. So you got electricity, don't you?
Yeah, I'm actually planning on doing that over the weekend because we just picked up the new route. So, man, I just went through this bullshit with Comcast. Oh, man. I was trying to save money with Comcast. I just want an internet at the house, right? Because we're going to leave cable service on.
Who needs TV anymore?
We're just going to leave cable service on up here for grandma, but we're going to just have internet. So they offered me a pretty nice deal on internet, which is going to give me $250 down. The up is probably what it always is, which is about $12. And then also get unlimited data, so no data cap, if I rent their modem, which is $15 a month. Now, I don't mind doing that for right now because I need to actually replace my router, and I don't have the money right now with the move and all that to invest in the router that I actually like to buy, which is the Synology 2600 AC. It's a big long gibberish name. You can go check youronpay.com/DM37 for actual full name of the router and a link to it on Amazon. But it's a nice router, and one of the reasons I'm interested in it is because it runs a very similar, I don't think it's the exact same software, but similar software to what runs on the Synology dish stations, which are just their NAS products. It seems to be a very powerful router. Has USB on it, so you can install a few packages, have your cloud sync set up. Think I could probably run Plex off of it, do some other things with it. So interesting in that ideal that I don't have to go hack a router to put, something like Tomato or DDWRT on it. but it's about $200, which isn't bad for what you're getting. Like, I don't think it's bad for what you're getting. My only concern, and one reason I don't want to invest the money in it right now, have to deal with returns, is I'm not certain that the Synology web interface that I would have to use is accessible. The last time I heard somebody actually mention attempting to use it with VoiceOver on the Mac, admittedly, two things to be admittedly. One, it was a sighted person that had some familiarity with VoiceOver and was testing it because she knew her audience. It was actually, I can't get her name out.
Allison.
Yeah, it was Allison Sheridan from the No Silicast podcast, hosted at podfeed.com. Go check it out.
With an ever so Apple biased.
Yeah. Super cool lady. She has some familiar. She's not a full-time voiceover user, so of course she's not nearly as proficient with it as a everyday user like myself or Mike is, but she does know how to use it. Like, it's not she turns it on and doesn't know what the hell she's doing type of thing. So she took a look at their interface at some point when she had a Synology disk station that she was taking a look at. And she said all she got from VoiceOver is just image. So they have a bunch of images that represent the items you need to click on the screen.
That thing is driving me nuts. Literally,
Man.
with the software we talked about last time you guys listened to us. Connect.
Yeah. The table software, Airtable.
I mean, 2 episodes ago, I forgot that you guys heard Airtable. I was talking about Todoist.
Oh yeah, Todoist is really driving me crazy. I would probably drop OmniFocus altogether if I could just open it up on my Mac, open up Todoist, that is, on my Mac.
Get that fucking menu to show so I can forward emails to it.
I just want to email, items into my project list. That's all I want to do.
I need to reach out to support. I keep meaning to. I haven't done it yet. I need to figure out if there's any way that I wonder if they can set them up per project base. If you reach out to support, might be something to check into.
That's the thing to do, because I also need to reach out to support. Yeah. But it's one of them things where you go try something and you're like, well, I don't want to send. At least some of my hesitation is like, when I think about it, it's like, well, I really just looked at that very quickly and didn't get what I wanted out of it. There may be a way. Let me wait until I got some time to deal with it. And the next time I try to open it up on the Mac is because I'm like, hey, let me go see if this works. No, that doesn't work. God damn it. Let me go over here.
Now, you want to know what is freaking cool that does work on the Mac? If you open a draft, start a task, right? Asterisk, space, then the name of the task, right? Hit enter, type tab, and then the first step that needs to be done. Hit enter, tab's automatically entered there. Type the next task, and then hit enter again, etc., etc. That's what I did with the publish episode task, and then I selected all of that, copied it over to the quick add dialog box by pressing the letter Q in the app, pasted it, and it created the task with all the subtasks under it. So that is pretty handy and saved me a lot of time. If we could just get it to work consistently. Anyways, back to today's topic.
Yeah.
The Synology drive, if you don't get it, I'll tell you personally, it's a little bit more, but the Google Wi-Fi mesh setup is, from what I found, 100% accessible. It doesn't give you all the same features that Synology does, but I did record an AOTD about that people can listen to if they head on over to yourownpay.com/DM37. I'll link to it. Damashe, real quick about the Pixel headphones, back to them. I tried them in the Chromebook and they worked just fine because they were USB-C, which is great. I also tried them on the Mac. Now, here's the problem that I think I ran into. They didn't work, but I'm not sure if I was plugging them into USB-C or Thunderbolt.
So my understanding...
Is there any way to figure out the difference? Or
So my understanding of the ports on any of the newer Macs that have a USB-C so let's break this down so that nobody gets confused. USB-C is just a connector type. Right? What goes over USB-C is what is confusing a lot of people when it comes to the MacBooks, at least. USB-C can support USB 3. I think it's actually USB 3.1 Gen something. So it's super fast USB 3. And it can also support Thunderbolt 3. Now, as far as I know, Apple is the main proponent of using Thunderbolt 3 over USB-C. I'm not going to say they're the only company because somebody will jump out of the woods and be like, oh, no, this HP Spectre has it too. It's like, I don't know about those though. But I do know Apple is a big pusher of Thunderbolt 3. My understanding of the way that it functions on the MacBook Pros at this point, it's supposed to be smart enough. If you plug in a USB Type-C USB 3 device, it's supposed to give you USB 3. If you plug in a USB Type-C connector that is a Thunderbolt device, then it's supposed to give you Thunderbolt. Now, I also think that, if I'm not mistaken, there are 2 ports on each side of that laptop.
Yep.
So I think the 2 on the left, if I remember right, are Thunderbolt 3 as well as USB 3. And the 2 on the right are just USB 3 and not Thunderbolt.
And it also could very well be that the headphones just don't work with the Mac too, which I haven't done any research, so no one quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure. But
it might be a situation where when you plug them in, it's not instantly recognizing them or it's not instantly switching because that computer also has a headphone jack. So you may have to go say, output my audio to these,
I didn't even think about that.
And, that's probably actually what I think the problem is, that you're going to have to manually go switch them.
It was pretty cool, though, just plugging them into the Chromebook, and it popped right open in ChromeVox, which is an interesting thing. The voice on your Pixel XL, just so you know, and the default latest ChromeVox voice are exactly the same. So if you're curious, what ChromeVox?
So, kind of back to the Pixel 3, Mike, I see that you said March, you're going to try using the Pixel 3 more than iOS. So you can prove a point to Mallory? What are you trying to prove to Mallory at this?
All right. So Mallory kept telling me, as you know, I like to try different devices out. So Mallory kept telling me, well, you can't do Android because every time you get an Android device, this hasn't been the first time, you get frustrated with it and you go back to iOS. And I can't argue with that point, because up until now, every time I got an Android phone, I get frustrated with the fact that things just didn't work the way I expected them to. And so I'd jump back over to iOS and get an iPhone and throw a man fit until I got my iPhone, and then get an iPhone and actually make it work right. Well, I think possibly the Pixel XL3 might be a different story for that, at least for the 3 days I've spent with it. I want to, as I said, commit the month of March to me using Android, and we'll probably talk more about like apps that we'll miss from iOS and stuff like that during that process on the podcast. But I think it's something I'm going to experiment with for a little bit. How long has it been since you used Android as your full-time phone?
So last time I used Android as my full-time phone, oh man, it had to be around iPhone 5 time. So I was using the S3, Galaxy S3, whenever that was sort of the newest Galaxy phone.
Yeah.
That's the last time I used Android full time. And I mean, it was fine back then. Of course, it was running Samsung's software for the most part. Yeah. Well, actually, I used Nova Launcher to buy all that stuff. But they had done some customizations at that point to the way the TalkBack functioned.
Right.
So there were some enhancements that were not there on regular TalkBack at that time. I'm in agreement with you that I think the Pixel 3 is like really good. TalkBack seems really responsive. And the enhancements that they brought as far as navigation go from the last time I was using an Android phone for any significant amount of time are tremendous, like tremendous enhancements. There are some reasons I don't think I could go full-time Android, but like you, I do intend on attempting to spend as much time using the Android phone as possible. Especially since I still have a watch. So a lot of stuff that I would miss as far as notifications from iOS, because what I don't want to do is take my SIM card out of my iPhone and stick it to the Android phone. So Google Fi will probably be the solution for that for the Android phone. So I do have a number that I'll be able to use. And I can just keep my watch on. And as long as my phone is on, I should be able to get text messages, iMessages and all of that stuff.
And then you can forward your phone calls from your other phone to your Google Fi phone number, which, by the way, if you're interested in Google Fi, head on over to
europay.com/DM37.
Yeah, thank you. To get the show notes or to get access to a $20 credit, and you'll also support Damashe by getting that. Now, I'm using Google Fi, and Mallory likes it because it uses the US cellular network where we are when you're on Pixel. When you're on a made-for Google Fi device like the Pixel XL is, so we don't have dropped calls halfway from here to work like she normally does. And so she can call me when she leaves from home and tell me all the things she wants me to get done before she gets home, and she doesn't drop the call in the middle of it and doesn't have to call me back and say, did I already tell you to do this?
Yeah, I noticed that when looking at the Fi documentation too. It's like, automatically switch between networks based off, where you are, what's strongest is if you have a made for phone, as the Pixel 3 is. I would suspect that you're going to be stuck with a specific network if you're trying to use it on an iPhone.
It's T-Mobile if you're trying to use it on an iPhone or a different phone, which might not be a bad situation depending on where you live, but where we live, we'll still have that dropped section right there in the same area because I just know from personal experiences, you get to know cell phone networks around where you live.
Yeah, you do. Google Fi is an interesting project, though. It looks like a lot of people are trying to get into that business. Xfinity, Comcast is actually in the business with their Xfinity Mobile, and they're using Verizon as the backbone of their cell network. Interestingly enough, they're offering you unlimited talk, text, and data for $45 a month. With an option to do a payment plan for new phones, which I found interesting. But I think the reason that they're able to do it, and maybe somewhere like Family Mobile through Walmart that's using T-Mobile can't do, like the payment plans for new devices, is because Comcast basically already has that infrastructure in place as a cable company. Like, so they're used to, first of all, taking monthly payments. They're used to breaking up payments for devices over several. They charge you $15 a month for a router.
That router don't cost that much too, so they're used to marking shit up too.
Yeah, they can cost quite to get the version of the router that they have built for them. They typically run.
You think more than 175 though?
Yeah,
because that's a year with the router.
Yeah, because you got to think about it though. You got to think about what you're getting with any cable provider's modem. Is you're getting the cable service into it. So you have a cable, you have 3 different devices, sometimes 4, but you have at least 3 different devices there. You have a cable modem that brings your signal across the cable into your house. You have a router that routes your traffic inside your house, and you also have a wireless access point.
And sometimes a phone.
Yeah, and then sometimes a phone. The one that we just got, which is their, what is it called? I was about to say Google something. Xfinity Advantage modem does not have regular phone jacks on it, so it does not provide phone service.
Unless you plug in a VoIP box yourself, but that just doesn't come with it built in. So.
Yeah, it doesn't come with it built in.
Yep.
But this is supposed to be a smart device in the sense of like it's supposed to start over the next 6 months, the lady told me. It's supposed to detect like where do you use Wi-Fi at the most during certain parts of the day and start steering the power of the Wi-Fi, beaming it more in that general direction as opposed to just splatting everywhere. So if the den is getting a lot of Wi-Fi traffic throughout the day, then it should start steering more power that way so that the signal is better in there. And like I said, the reason I was willing to pick it up is because I am going to buy a router. One thing I didn't mention about the Synology router, one reason that I am interested in it too, not just for its Synology router management software that comes installed on it, but also because Synology does have mesh products. I forget the exact name of them. They will be in the show notes, a link to those as well. But the Synology 2600 router can serve as a standalone router or as a base station for the additional
mesh satellite.
Yeah, which is cool, right? Because I could buy the router again and I got to find out if it's accessible.
Right. Because that's the big question: is it accessible?
Right. I gotta go drop $200 on it. I can't configure it. It's like, okay, you got to go back.
Synology. Damashe is willing to accept a free one. Feel free to mail it to him. He'll mail it back to you if it's not accessible. He'd be glad to mail it back to you. He just doesn't want to buy it and deal with the headache of returning it.
Yeah, returns can be a pain in the butt sometimes.
Anyways, that's all I got for you guys for this week. You got anything else, Damashe?
Nope, that's it.
All right. How do they follow you on Twitter?
I don't know, man. I'm not even on Twitter anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All right. How do they get a hold of you? You need to do something. Website, Twitter, something.
You can tweet at me. I'm at Damashe, Damashe on Twitter. And he is...
at Payon, Payown, yourownpay.com/DM37 for show notes and more information.
You've been listening to Your Own Pay Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, visit yourownpay.com/cast for exclusive content and to contact us today. We're eager to hear your thoughts and about how you're making this podcast your own. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. The Your Own Pay Podcast, yourownpay.com.